Welcome to Economics 101. My name is Professor QE Tsu, and today we are going to talk about economics during the Middle Ages with a naked wolf chick. This is Spice and Wolf. Spice and Wolf started out as a series of light novels written by Isuna Hasakura with illustrations by Ju Ayakura and published by ASC2 Media Works under their Dengeki Bunko imprint. It was later turned into a manga series by Keito Koume and a 13-episode anime series developed by Imagin. The story is about a young peddler named Kraft Lawrence who makes a deal with a wolf deity named Holo, which in exchange for her boundless wisdom agrees to return her to the place of her birth. So, are you curious on what kind of adventures this rather odd couple goes on together? So am I. Let's take a look. So the show starts with our main character, a wolf spirit named Holo, as she reminisces about the past and about a deal she made with a strange young man. She makes a promise to him that she would watch over his town and provide the town with a plentiful harvest. However, as the years pass by and mankind advances in technology, she slowly begins to realize that she is no longer needed and wishes to return to her home in the north. So we cut to our second main character, a young man named Kraft Lawrence, who is a traveling merchant who arrives at the town of Pasole. It seems he has arrived just in time for an annual pagan festival in which the town celebrates a fruitful year of harvest in reverence of Holo. So that's what a pagan festival looks like. All this time I thought it looked more like this. Ooga chaka, ooga, ooga, ooga chaka, ooga, ooga, ooga chaka. So as evening approaches, Kraft Lawrence decides to leave and head for his next destination, deciding not to butt in on the town's festivities. However, things suddenly become more interesting when he suspects a stranger is hiding out in his wagon. But it's not just any stranger.
Ears.
Naked wolf chick.
Shut up, Athwood!
Tail.
Oh great, you just had to wake up every dog in the neighborhood, didn't you? Now they're gonna be at this all night long. I hope you're happy, Holo. Seeing that she is a wolf spirit, Lawrence makes a move to defend himself. After a slight misunderstanding, Holo finds favor in him and asks him to take her to her home up north in a land called Yorts.
Take me with you then.
But why me?
Because I am a good judge of character. And because I do not believe you're at all the type of person who would deny me this kind of request.
However, Lawrence refuses to believe her unless she shows him proof that she's not lying, so she offers to transform into her true form in order to show him that she's for real.
Hey! Are you alright?
What the heck was that? Did the show decide to skip the rest of the scene or something? It makes no sense. Look, she takes a bit of wheat, swallows it, begins to transform, and this happens. Hello, I thought you were going to show us your true form, not abruptly skip to the next scene. She later appears in front of him again at a local inn and makes a deal with him that if he takes her to her home up north, that she will provide him with her wisdom in his economic ventures. Great, she's a disappearing naked wolf chick. And so begins their quest to travel north, as well as find a way to make a decent living during tough economic times. But let's talk more about this show's characters. Kraft Lawrence is a young yet experienced merchant who goes from town to town and trades various goods in order to make a living and dreams of one day settling down and opening his own shop. He has a keen sense of business and has been traveling for 7 years while gaining experience in the trade. However, despite being calm and collective most of the time, he can also be rather impulsive when he gets excited, which causes him to get into trouble more than once throughout the show, in which only Holo can help him get out of said situation. Holo, also known as Holo the Wise, is a 500-year-old wolf spirit who normally takes the form of a young woman. She's normally a kind and considerate person, but is also prone to be short-tempered, arrogant, sarcastic, and self-centered. She also hates being alone and relies on Lawrence for company as she fears loneliness. She also has a ravenous appetite and loves anything delicious, especially apples. Now, there has been some debate on what her name should be in the English language. Because the Japanese language does not differentiate between L and R sounds, there has been some confusion on whether her name should be Holo or Horo. Personally, I think Holo is a more suitable name. Not only does it have a more prettier ring to it, but Horo sounds more like a guy's name. Then there's the Church, presumably the Holy Roman Empire that ruled much of Central Europe during that time, and the Roman Catholic Church in general. The Church plays a constant role in the anime, mostly as an antagonistic force. Many of the characters under the guise of the Church, despite claiming to follow the teachings of the Bible, tend to hide their highly questionable business practices under the guise of the greater good, mostly through corrupt trading organizations which act as proxies for the Church's business deals. Take a look at this scene, for example, and pay close attention because this is exactly what your government is doing to your dollar as of right now.
According to our investigation, the royal family's purse strings are increasingly tight.
They'd have to be. The royal family is trying to temporarily gather and melt the silver coins currently in circulation. The idea is that if 10 of their silver coins can be made into 13 by reducing the purity, they've made a profit. For now, they can generate the funds needed, but at the same time, the country loses credibility. If you ask me, the long-term disadvantage is far greater than the temporary increase in funds. Yet they've taken it upon themselves to do it anyway.
Did you get that? Basically, they are planning to mint more coins with less and less silver in them, increasing the money supply and in turn devaluing it. I kind of find it funny that if a person were to do this sort of thing, it would be called counterfeiting, which if caught, that person would face years of jail time. However, if the government does it, it's called quantitative easing, aka inflation, and nobody gets in trouble? Why? But let's get back on topic. At the same time, there are members of the Church who Lawrence befriends and depends on throughout his ordeals. Even though this anime is about economic situations in medieval Europe, I still wouldn't recommend this anime to anyone under the age of 14. And here's why. First, Holo is seen completely naked for a good portion of Episode 1 and Episode 2, and briefly in the opening credits, as well as a few times in the last episode. Thus, to stay within Japan's broadcasting standards, with the exception of Holo's head and tail, her entire body is merely outlined, colored, and shaded in for the perception of depth. So if you were expecting some good old-fashioned TNA in this anime like Girls Bravo or Mahoro-matic, prepare to be disappointed. Nope, sorry, not in this anime, guys. Aww. Nevertheless, I think I will give this anime 3 stars for nudity. The anime is mostly tame when it comes to crude humor. In fact, the only bit of crude humor in this show I've noticed is when Holo teases Lawrence a couple of times for being timid about seeing her naked when they first meet. Thus, I will give this 1 star for crude humor. I don't remember hearing that much foul language either. The only amount of swearing I could only recall hearing in this show is the word damn at least a couple of times. Thus, I will give this 1 star as well. Most of the physical violence in this show is localized to specific episodes in order to increase the tension of the situation at certain parts in the show. However, if you view violence from an economic standpoint, there's tons of it. Some good examples would be blackmail, corporate espionage, backhanded deals, fraud, market manipulation, smuggling, and even kidnappings and assassination plots. Everything that would pique the interest in the Bernie Madoff, or Tim Geithner, or even the Ben Bernanke in us all. Thus, I will give this 2 stars for violence. Spice and Wolf is a rather unique fantasy in that, rather than focusing on what usually defines a fantasy epic, for example, swords and magic, instead it focuses more on the economic system during that time. So as you can imagine, most of the show's conflict comes in the form of economic disputes. It proves as a nice break from all the usual cliches that other anime tend to use so extensively. However, there is one downside to this. If you are not interested in the field of economics or business, this anime may end up boring at times since the characters spend a lot of time in the show talking about how the economy works or discussing future economic trends. Luckily, the boring parts are few and far between thanks to the anime's clever plot twists and well-balanced pacing. Although there is another problem this anime has. Since it was based on a series of light novels, it can tend to become quite talky and dialogue-heavy, which may prove to be difficult to follow at times. Like spending a good 5 to 6 minutes on deciding what clothes we should buy for Holo, or that long discussion about the next big business venture.
Get on with it!
Geez, if I wanted to learn more about economics, I'd take an economics class in college. But why am I complaining when there's a naked wolf chick involved? So despite those relatively minor flaws, I will give this 4 out of 5 stars for story. The soundtrack has a nice pre-Baroque era feel to it and really fits in well with the show's medieval setting. The opening theme has a rather solemn feel to it, while the ending theme, let's just say it's an experience. I'm pretty sure fans of English will love this one, and it's quite catchy too. So I will give soundtrack a 4 out of 5. The animation captures the medieval setting perfectly. The animation is attractive, smooth, and well detailed. The world comes across as surprisingly immersive, and the attention to color and lighting really enhances this, from the fields and the forest to the bustling streets of the city. It paints a medieval setting that provides a look back to a simpler time when people still traveled by horseback and merchants bartered for trade. It may not be the best of quality, but it sure gets the job done in immersing us into this anime's world. Thus, I'll give it 4 out of 5 stars. The anime not only takes a look at economics during the medieval times, but also the relationship between two people from completely different worlds. One interesting thing I noticed is that the anime only involves 2 main characters, giving it the distinction as having the shortest main cast out of any anime I have reviewed on this show. But for an anime with such a small cast, it has a phenomenal amount of character development. For instance, one thing hinted at and briefly touched upon but never fully explored is the concept of old religion versus new religion. I could only imagine how lonely Holo must feel after the people who once entrusted and revered her gradually turned away from her. Feeling isolated, she turns to a young peddler who turns out to be the only friend she has left, and eventually they begin to develop feelings for each other in a cruel and unforgiving world. Unfortunately, because the anime focuses so much on Holo and Lawrence, many of the supporting cast don't get much character development. Take, for example, the character Chloe. She is introduced in the first episode and built up like she will become one of the main characters in the story, but after appearing a few times throughout the first half of the story, she is never seen or mentioned again after episode 6. I mean, geez, talk about a throwaway character. In fact, most of the supporting cast are throwaway characters. I guess that's part of being a traveling merchant, meeting and doing business with people you rarely ever get to see, but still I would like to know more about the characters that we do run into. At least a show like Bleach, which has a supporting cast of characters somewhere in the hundreds, have more in-depth personalities and are explored more than the little supporting cast we see here. But at least the characters we do meet are lovable, and that's all that matters, right? Thus, even though I love the characters of Holo and Lawrence, I still think this deserves a 3 out of 5. For a series about trading and medieval economics, this anime was actually pretty fun to watch. I do wish the anime did spend more time developing the supporting cast, but at least the developing relationship between Holo and Lawrence never got boring throughout their adventures. However, the anime may prove to be a bit boring at times if you aren't interested in economics, but a well thought out and evenly paced original story and a rather interesting couple of characters won't make the boring parts too long. As such, I will give Spice and Wolf 3 style points and an overall rating of 8 out of 10. Well, the holidays are here and I'd better get started on my shopping. This is the American Anime Otaku, signing out.